Welcome back, my friends, to TFT Hyper Roll with Autarch, and this is a game off the most recent patch, and there is a whole lot that goes on in it. First, shout out to Cog and Mawmouth, who recognized me in the game, and it's going to spark an entire thing that's going to go on that you can kind of read as we go along with the game. As we jump into the first set of augments, there's some discussion about this set in general, but let's get to the augments. Nothing really exciting because I don't know what I'm playing until I see Sage Crest. Now that the Sage Crest and the Dragonlord Crest both come with a Diana, that makes them no-brainers to me to take, especially since my favorite comp to actually play is the Dragonlord Sage, or Wise Dragons. Now, after I've already taken the augment, they mentioned to me that they'd like to do the Sage Dragonlord combo, and I'm explaining to them that Bruisers is probably their best bet to climb, which it is, but there's kind of no going back now for this comp. Once you've got the Sage emblem and you're building Diana and you've got Dragonlord set up, there's not much else you can go to with that because Dragonlord Sage is kind of what works the best. So you get pigeonholed a lot of times by those opening augments. Meanwhile, the chat's gonna go a little nuts here. Much like Kabuko, my goal with Diana is to get her to 3 stars because this is gonna fall apart without it, so I go ahead and grab the Champion Duplicator. Now you go ahead and decide what you want to follow, whether you want to follow the wacky chat or the actual game that's going on. They're both entertaining in their own way. I'm going to talk about the game. My goal for Diana is 3 items: Titan's Resolve, Hextech, Gunblade, and Jeweled Gauntlet. And we're going to get into this a little bit more later because another player on this team takes exception to my Diana items, but I think they're pretty solid. It is time for the second set of augments, and Silver Veil's pretty tempting because Diana's biggest problem is getting stuck with CC early on, so if I can avoid that, I'm going to take the opportunity. I bring in Riven to help solidify the front line, along with the plan to bring in Galio later. That will end up triggering Storyweaver along with the Crazy Plant Lady down at the bottom. Then I can set Kale to AP mode and give a little boost to the Crazy Plant Lady and Morgana. And I'm also explaining all of this in chat as I'm trying to play through it. And now from what I can see, there are 3 different people going Dragonlord comps because of opening augments that kind of forced us into this type of comp. So there's a lot of competition going on in here. Now I actually feel bad because I would love to be able to just give up Diana and switch to another comp, but there's not much else I can really do with a Sage emblem that's going to work very well. Its best form is going to be along with Dragonlord. And as we're headed into the final set of augments, knowing there are 3 people trying for the Diana comp, it's time to just put an end to whether I'm going to get the gold 3-star, take the heroic grab bag, and just, put her there. Now, there are a few different ways to finish this off. I definitely like to bring in Galio when possible so I can create Storyweaver. It's also not a bad idea to bring in Annie or another Invoker to trigger Invoker along with Janna. You can also bring in Soraka because that is going to trigger Altruist, which, although it was nerfed a little bit, hasn't been nerfed into non-existent, so any of that will potentially work. In this case, we're going to bring in Galio and then get ourselves an AP boosting Kale and put Kale between Morgana and Janna, potentially moving over to the Crazy Plant Lady later. Right now, the weak spot in the build is Nico because she was really just an item holder early on for when I got a decent tank later, but I haven't really gotten one outside of the 1-star Galio, so I'm hoping that I can pick up the 2-star Annie to take that place. It is time for our final item component, and originally I wanted to try to get a blue buff or something like that for Morgana, but we didn't get enough out. So since we got an early Wukong, I'm going to go ahead and put the Deathblade on him. Then I'm going to go looking for an Annie, because if I can get the 2-star Annie, I can replace Nico up front, get the Sage emblem on her, and then start tanking her up. Outside of a 3-star Kabuko that you've been building up since the beginning of the match, Annie and Galio are to me the strongest tanks in the game, and Annie at 3 stars is an absolute menace. I'll be doing a couple videos on that in the next couple of weeks. We did manage to get a blue buff out of the waste of time, so we can go ahead and put that on Morgana. We have a few more items left, it's just a matter of how to distribute them. I decide to go with a second jeweled gauntlet for Diana, and then an additional Rabadon's Death Cap on Morgana. Cog ended up going full Story Weaver, and I just have not found that build very effective. I know some people managed to use it, but with the recent nerfs and everything I've seen, it just ends up being Story Weaver against Story Weaver going out in 6th and 8th, etc. like that. Meanwhile, in chat, I'm talking about the videos I just did last week about Kabuko. I still think Bruisers is the way to go in this set, at least in Hyper Roll. I know nothing about what goes on in Ranked. They had asked whether Warden would work. I have not found Warden particularly effective, nor Behemoth, unless you get really, really friendly augments for them. And you can read the chat or watch the game. Always a tough decision at this point whether to put in Rakan or not. That for Dragonlords is really important because it comes with a stun. However, I would have to lose the 5 Sage or one of my key tanks to do it. I stick with this way, and it works because we are now into the top 4. And we are down to our final 2 item choices, so I'd really love to pick up more AP for Rakan, but we're going to go ahead instead and finish off Wukong with a Last Whisperer, and then hope we have a really good AP item here. Jeweled Gauntlet will do fantastically. And back to the chat for a moment as we deal with a Ghost team. I'm talking about the difference between doing a build like Bruisers, Snipers, Bruisers, Trick Shot, which is pretty simple to do, not likely to win, but will get you top 4. This build, a lot riskier to run. If everything doesn't fall into place perfectly, you're probably going out 6 to 8, but when it works, it really feels like it comes together well. Now, we are down to the 1v1, and it's time to discuss Diana items, because a lot of people use Diana as a tank. And as you can see in the chat, I'm told I am cooking something strange with these items. Here's the thing with Diana in a Sage build, especially if you get to 5 Sage. There is so much healing that she is getting, you don't need the tank items so much. You can use her damage as her healing to use her as a tank while still doing damage. You're letting your other champions, like Annie in this case, be the tank. So while Tank Diana may work in some builds, when I'm building into Sage, I want her putting out a lot of damage because then she's going to stay up even longer just by virtue of that. And this is now against a really, really strong full Behemoth team with all the augments that could possibly help it. But you can see there just isn't much chance because they can't get through Diana, not because of her tank items, but because she's healing so much. Next group of videos on this channel are going to just be sort of some fun builds that I've done along the way, and then we're going to get into 3-star forecasts, and yep, I agree, Cog, this was a good YouTube video. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, have an absolutely, absolutely awesome day.